Hello guys, this is Arif. I'll be showing you how we offer virtual lab solutions uh, through various platforms which we have tied up with. Uh, we want the students to explore a specific topic, anything from life sciences to all the way to higher level of sciences, maths. What this will do is it's allowing the students to explore topic by comparing different scenarios. They can pause and restart application for reflection, and they can start taking notes, and they get a feeling of practical experimentation kind of an experience, which really helps the student to grasp a specific topic. And this is all in a virtual space, of course, completely safe and accessible for all the students. The best part of it is the student can repeat as many times as they require. Even after the school hours, if they want to explore, they can do more and more experiments. So I'll be showing you one of the topics, which is something which bothers a lot of students as well as teachers while teaching it. I'm going to show you various virtual labs associated with the topic. The topic is called circulatory system. I'll be sharing this. Yeah. All right. So this specific topic, of course, if we take in consideration of different curriculums over different countries. For example, in a UK system, the heart, the circulation, animal circulation is taught in key stage 2, year 6. And in the Indian syllabus, it's explored. I mean, if you talk about CBSE, it's mentioned, it's allocated in the grade 8 much more in detail. And in ICSE, it's also explored in grade 6 and in successive years as well. So the student can benefit from this virtual lab. I'll just show you how the virtual labs which we have planned across, how the lesson carries through. So exactly, this is something which the teacher can use for explaining the heart. For example, here, as you can see, this is a typical example of how a heart looks like. So the anatomy of heart can be explained. Teacher can use this teaching tools to explain and mark for the students. So what part is this? They can ask the students to explain, and so on. As you can see, the students are also open to just, if they are not aware of certain things, they can just click and they get to know more details through labels mentioned on every part of the heart. For example, as you can see, this is the right ventricle and the left ventricle, and this is the left atrium, right atrium. This is the aorta, superior vena cava, pulmonary artery. This is the inferior vena cava, and of course, and then we can also see some fat layers is a must in heart. And of course, the teacher can explain the functionalities of heart, what each of these parts do, why is fat important, how does it help in shock absorption, and many other ways. So you can see here coronary arteries and cardiac veins. So what are the role of this? They can even the students can even look into a cross-section view of it, and they can easily understand how each of the parts look like internally if we splice it into a half. So the cross-section view gives a very good explanation. The teacher can explain more in detail. As you can see, what's this separating the two halves. So this is called septum, for example. The teacher can use all these tools to explain this to the students. Of course, they can even capture videos while so that they don't waste their teaching time. So they can make a video and quickly share it with the student groups, so they can work prior to the specific class. Especially the theory part can be dealt in the prior to the virtual lab part. So I'll just move on to the next one. As you can see, this is a really interesting simulation to explore and explain the circulatory system. What's interesting about this is student can experiment as they like. So there is no hard and fast rule for students what they want to explore. For example, they want to know how the heartbeat sounds like. So you can see, so it gives you the loved up sound. They can also understand what exactly is the circulatory system like. They can click on the labels, they can see the blood flow and how using tiny balls, how the blood flow is actually flowing from. It starts all the way from right atrium, right ventricle goes to the lungs, comes back to the left atrium, moves to the left ventricle, and then it moves around the rest of the body. Of course, this is for a student to learn, and they can pause at any time for better understanding where each and every flow is happening. For further explanation, for example, in a higher grade level where the students are learning about pulmonary system and the systemic system of blood flow, you can see here clearly how the blood flows exactly, and this gives a very good idea about how each organs are associated. And the other one, they had just labels, so this gives you a very good explanation. Okay, so this part is going to the head, and this is how it's connected through veins and artery. And if I know how to differentiate between a systemic system, so students are free to operate it themselves, and then they understand, okay, so the systemic system is actually the system of the circulatory system where blood flows to the other parts of the body, and the pulmonary system is just to the hearts and coming back. So this gives them a clear view and understanding of the differences, because that's one of the confusing aspects of circulatory system. Of course, you can do a lot more. Students can explore further, or you can throw in questions, or student can form their own hypothesis. Where exactly does the blood flow from? As I mentioned previously, so you can ask them to make a chart so it starts from where and where does it end up in. More interesting part about this is, as you can see the blood flow, you can even carry a syringe and you can get certain data, as you can see here. So a syringe is basically to collect blood samples at any of the parts of the body, and you get a data sample here. And of course, also you get a microscopic view of the blood sample. Why this is interesting is because you can throw in questions for the students. Which part of the body has oxygenated blood? Okay, where does the oxygenated blood generate from? Or where does, what exactly is happening in the heart itself? For example, in the right atrium, if I collect a blood sample, you can ask the students to interpret it in their own ways. They can measure the oxygen level, note it down in their observation tables. The oxygen levels here is 34 and carbon dioxide is 49. But if I take the same syringe and I collect the blood from the left atrium, you can see there is a contrasting difference. We have oxygen 91 compared to a carbon dioxide, which is 39. So we can say, so this is where actually the oxygenated blood comes to the heart, and from there it starts moving. Of course, teacher can explain the heart for lower grades that heart is just like a mechanical pump, which gets the good blood, oxygenated blood with nutrients, and it spreads it around the rest of the body. And while coming back, it collects all the carbon dioxide and other waste products. So we can throw in for the students where exactly is actually sugar collected from, for example. So they can check from, of course, the red ones are the arteries and the blue ones are veins, and the one interconnecting them is the capillaries. They can collect at the end of the artery or the start of the vein from each organ, and they can collect data and they can compare right now. So you can see here the blood sugar levels are 119 at the start of the liver, and at the end it's 183. So students starts thinking and investigating and they analyze that, okay, so before liver, after liver, what were the blood levels. They can check the same thing in an intestine also. So 118 and you can see 175. So where exactly is it? The blood is absorb. I mean, blood absorbs the nutrients. Which part of the organ? Which organ is responsible? For example, of course, you can give further questions like, okay, where exactly is the um, waste product being filtered? For example, I can check at the left start of the kidney. As you can see, the urea levels are 13.7. Though it might seem less, teachers can explain that's actually a high level, and it's within the standards. I mean, if it goes exceeds that, it's really harmful. And I can see after it leaves the kidney, it's around 6.2. This is, of course, the bloodstream. Don't confuse it with how the waste product it should increase or not. This is the bloodstream. So bloodstream comes to the kidneys, and this is where the filtration happens, and the blood comes back as a pure blood comparatively. From 13 it dropped to 6. So you can see the kidneys are really helpful in filtering our body and removing the excess waste in our body. One more thing which I would want to explain is the microscopic view of the blood sample. Student can understand different cells which are present in the body. Like you can see red blood cells, white blood cells, plasma. All of that can be explained here. Of course, along with this is something which the students will be doing. Along with this, there is some assessment questions as well, which the students can answer, and the teacher probably can control these answers. As you can see, a student would be asked certain questions here after they do the experiment and from their previous knowledge, from the theory they learned from classroom. So they have to answer after they do this sort of experiments. And it's really interesting because teachers can then and there understand what this virtual lab has actually helped the student in. So are they getting the right blood flow, which is very difficult to explain in a normal classroom scenario. Through videos, of course, it is interesting, but if they experiment, it's really, that is what makes it more meaningful, and they understand and grasp the knowledge much better. So you can see there are a lot of questions, and the teacher can see which student has got it wrong. So you get a whole scenario where the class teacher can see who has completed the task, who has completed the assessment, and so on. Of course, this I've already explained. So for the higher grade students, we can also show about arteries. What exactly is the blood flow look like? So in the same microscopic view, we can see here the yellow colored fluid. This is the plasma. You can see this is a significant part of the blood, and this gives a clear idea how a normal artery looks like and a clogged artery looks like. So students can explore it themselves, and they can come as a group and explain to the teacher what they have learned from this particular simulation. So you can see when there is a clogged artery, when fat layers are clogging this particular artery, what happens? You can see that the nutrients are getting narrowed down, and it's difficult for the nutrients to reach, and that's when it gets harmful for the person. So there are different strategies where a clogged artery is removed. One of them is angioplasty. Students can straight up see how a balloon angioplasty works, and you can see this is how a balloon. So they pump and they try to get rid of a bit of fats. And then there is a stent implantation, which is similar to balloon angioplasty, but they implant a metallic thing which doesn't allow the fats to clog that anymore. So students can explore in different ways. Of course, they can learn about what are the factors affecting hypertension, for example. Or so we have made sure the lesson plan follows in a progressive way, so that the higher order students can succeed in case they want to explore more or want to learn more. So there is even more. What are the different blood types? How are the immune response for each of these? They can do different tests on patient, what blood group they are. It's really interesting for a student to do all such things while learning the theory. So that's what we are providing. We provide a certain set of tasks. We have proposed it to the school, and they just have to follow the sequence along with the lesson plan which we provide. It really helps the student understand the topic much better, specifically such topics which are difficult to explain in a theory class. And it works wonder for the teachers who are trying to finish and overcome a learning objective. Yeah, that's all I have.